March 11th, 2025 regular Planning Commission meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, commissioners, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Will the city planner please call the roll?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Commissioner Brown?
Present.
Commissioner Seals?
Here.
Commissioner Langell?
Here.
Commissioner DeYoung is absent and maybe running late. Commissioner Stafford?
Here.
And Commissioner Seals, you do have a quorum with Commissioners Brown, Seals, Langell, and Stafford present. We do have just to mention that Commissioner Brown is participating telephonically.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Barnett, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item of business is approval of the agenda. Before changes are discussed, are there conflicts of interest to declare? If the commission would like to discuss anything under the consent agenda, such as the minutes, they need to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under new business at this time. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented unless objection is raised. Next on the agenda are reports. Do we have a report from City Planner Wellman?
Yes, let me see if I should go around there. Do I get to do the timer?
We're going to give you time
Oh, okay.
to talk fast.
I noticed there was a 15-minute version on that. Hold on. Hello, this is City Planner Wellman, and I thought I'd just give a quick report tonight. I had gone back and forth on this evening whether I was going to give maybe a little tool of something that's going on in the planning department, or maybe a little lesson on something. We've just been so busy in the department, and so I didn't put something together, although I did briefly have a discussion with the planning clerk about potentially talking with you about the 1,200-foot radius and showing how that worked. I did decide not to do that just because we are discussing that as part of our Title 16, so that's the only reason. But it's a really neat tool, and but we'll have some future things like that. But given this is such a light agenda, I do want to make value of the time that we're here. So one thing that I'd like to start implementing is, as we're growing, getting our feet under us, so to speak, we've been able to start implementing some things. And along the way, one thing that has happened the entire time since I assumed this position was I provide a staff report to our mayor. We have a staff meeting each week. And I thought, well, that's a nice way. Maybe I can give a little overview of some things that are going on in the department. Making sure not to have any conflicts of interest, of course, if we have a conditional use permit or something, I won't mention it until it's actually officially turned in. So I'm very cognizant of those things. So kind of breaking things up real quick into some of the things we do in the department. One of the first things is just alphabetical here. We do the addressing, and so I have been did that a bunch this last week. With the last couple weeks, we had South Central Foundation. We've been really trying to hone in on making sure that addresses are correct. So occasionally I'll have people reach out to me and say, you know, this has 2 units and it's only supposed to be 1 unit. And so I do the necessary paperwork to make sure if it's possible, am I allowed to remove a unit number or am I allowed to add a unit number? Which kind of dovetail into this next one. We had an initial request meeting to discuss the changing of a street name. And I did a preliminary review. I had the planning clerk in with me. She doesn't know this next part. But one of the things that I found, there's actually a process that this goes through in which it'll go to City Council and Planning Commission where we will discuss it. And so more information on that coming. I'm still reviewing it, and then we will be meeting with the applicant at that time. Let's see here. Moving on to our next one, it's our business licensing. I have quite a few meetings with either via telephone, video, or in person with the people who, they go to get their business license, and we have a kind of halt in the process where we say, oh, let's make sure you have your land use if you need any, that you may need. So we meet with the applicant and we determine, yes, one is needed, let's go ahead and send that out. And occasionally we can just reach out to them and just say, oh, it looks like you may need this type of permit, and we send them the application. Then we sign off on that. Moving on to code compliance, we have a weekly meeting in which we meet with our code compliance officer along with our business licensing personnel to determine, a lot of times these things go hand in hand. When potentially we have a land use issue, well, there's also a business licensing issue. So we try to, collectively we work and we keep each other appraised of things that are happening. With the comprehensive plan, not too much going on. We were working a little bit with developing a survey, and so we just weighed in on that. They have developed it, we just weighed in and thought that was, that looked good, or maybe I believe that Ms. Nygaard had a suggestion or two. In our department though, we've been working with the IT department on setting up a Teams channel, which is going to be, I'm going to be using this in other formats too, with some of our other entities that we have standing appointments with. You can use these to be able to have a repository that you can keep documents, or maybe like with the fire marshal, Crystal set up a quarterly meeting with them now. So we'll be able to say, hey, I want to talk about this, and we'll have an agenda that we can set up. And so I'm really excited about this, and it's been neat working with IT to get this set up, and hopefully other people in the city can use this as well. Let's see here. A few of these we'll skip here. Really working on training, and sometimes the training for our planning clerk has involved on-the-job training. Just today we're going to do this, and that's just, she just learns it, and she's been doing great. But we actually closed our appointment schedule down because we realized we needed to sit down and just do some in-depth training over some items. And so we were able to go through at least 1 or 2 permits where we went, started showing what that process looked like. And so it's been nice to be able to sit and do that for a while as well. Let's see here. One of the bigger discussions that I've been having with the departments is just beginning stages of developing a flow chart on how things work, is how our department really coincides or works with the other departments. Like, would it be okay if I issue this land use permit? Does Public Works need to have a sign off? We're just developing kind of a process, a routing slip, so to speak, on a bigger level. We have internal processes that we're working on, but then on a bigger scale. Is it okay if I do this, or oops, is that going to affect somebody else? Let's see here. We had a follow-up meeting with Basil Ginger to review, this is our permitting area, to review any outstanding items from our conditional use 2403. And I mentioned that just to let you know that we are following up on these items, that it's not just here's a conditional use permit and then you just go away forever. We want to make sure too, because invariably if we don't, something would happen and then, you know, it looks back to us, well, why we didn't follow up. So let's see here. We have our light agenda tonight, but coming up excitingly, on the 25th of this month, we have our regular meeting scheduled, but I was able to coordinate with both the attorney and with the city clerk. They will be coming back to complete the training. So be prepared. I'll go ahead and just in case I'm not sure about the time, we're still going to do it at 6 p.m. But I will have some refreshments available for that meeting in case it does run a little long. And kind of want to dovetail one last thing, or two last things. I talked a little bit about this, about the meetings that we have with the applicants. Something that's a little bit bigger in nature is a pre-application meeting. And that's when I'm looking at, or not just me, but we bring in public works, business licensing, and then our department where we're doing kind of, it's the administrative version of what you do when you look at a conditional use permit. We make sure that before they even turn in the application, we have a series of items that we're looking at so that when the application is turned in, there's no big surprise that they just don't, oh, whoops, I didn't know I needed a buffer, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. And those have been really helpful. It moves things along in the process very well. But we've had quite a few of those and some neat projects or neat development that's getting ready to happen because of them. And then finally, staffing. We actually just advertised for an administrative assistant. It's going to be a part-time position, similar to what Luann and Mary were doing before, in which that person will be kind of a Jack or Jill of all trades, in which we'll be able to, it'll free up the planning clerk somewhat so that I can provide some more training, but also, you know, man the phones a little bit, help gathering files for like code compliance things. When we get a call that says, hey, Cindy, can you go and check and see if this has a permit? Well, yes, and that person can pull the file. Or if we have a pre-application meeting, that person can go ahead and pull the file, get ready. But also some more in-depth looking at preparing some of our records that need to be put into record storage, those type of things. So I was excited to be able to have the funding to go ahead and do that. So that position will be closing here in the next day or two, and I'll have an update about how that's going. All right, were there any questions tonight?
Yeah, I have one. How many people do you have in the planning department?
Just myself and Julia.
Oh, wow, okay. So running very lean, so
Yes,
hopefully that part-time position will carry some of the load.
yes.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do not have an attorney present for tonight's meeting, so we'll move to public participation. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing. We do not have any items scheduled for public hearing tonight, so we will move on to persons to be heard. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share their views with the Planning Commission. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the Commission or administration. Anyone wishing to step forward may do so at this time. With no one wishing to speak, the next item of business is the consent agenda. Would the city planner please read the items for approval under the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you. So tonight on the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the preceding meetings. the regular meeting minutes for February 11th, 2025, and the special meeting minutes for, oh no, that's not the special, the regular meeting minutes for February 25th, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Commissioner Stafford, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Lanchill, second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. With no new business under consideration, we are now at communications. Are there any comments on the communications as presented? This would be the permit information, enforcement log, and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Planning Commission agenda.
Commissioner Seals, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
This is Planner Wellman. So just as somewhat what I mentioned at a previous meeting, where it seems that we're having kind of a up and a down, the permits are coming in fast and furious. And a lot of times what happens is we have a bunch of meetings and then all of a sudden the permits come in. So be prepared for the next one. We are just cranking them out right now, fast and furious. You're gonna see some big numbers on the next one. I know there was not a ton on this one or the previous, so get ready.
Thank you. By code, we're allowed to be here till 11 p.m., so I think we'll have plenty of time to work on this new business ahead. Are there any comments on the communications and the permit logs? Comments? We are now at audience comments. Time for members of the public to share their views with the commission. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the commission or administration. With no one to talk to the commission, we move on to comments. City Planner Wellman, do you have any comments?
No comment. Looking forward to seeing you later this month.
Planning Clerk Barnett, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Commissioner Brown, evening, sir. Do you have any comments?
Well, I'd like to go back to agenda item number 1 and start this all over again.
Well, that's a nice comment, but I think you're going to be voted down tonight.
No, thank you for everyone's participation and for taking the time to be here. And I see that the planner planned a regular meeting on the holiday again.
I advised her to bring cake. What's your favorite kind?
I'm watching, but I don't eat cake anymore.
All right,
No other comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Langell, do you have any comments?
If it's okay, I just have a question. It's been a while since I've been involved in city functions and whatnot. I belong to a group, Lost Animals, Lost Pets, and I see that we have large amounts of lost animals or found animals. So the city, do they have their own what do you call it?
Animal control?
Animal control. No, she's saying no. You're saying yes.
Oh, no, I was saying.
Oh.
Sorry.
We don't have our own facility, but our code compliance officer acts as the person that if there's an issue with an animal, that then he can take the animal and then it goes over to the Matsu Borough. But no facility here in the city boundaries.
Okay, with the number, I'm just wondering if it's not something the planning commission should look at. Number one, for code compliance, what is it, one person? To see about a facility for the city and help for the code compliance officer. Is that something the planning commission could take on?
I'm sure we can discuss it. We're discussing it right now, and we can bring it up in the future as well. I think, though, that the borough does come into the city limits. So the code compliance officer is not necessarily the only animal control in the city. I think there's a contract that the city has with the borough. So there is borough animal control within the city limits because they encompass the whole borough and include the city. And that's my understanding. So it's not just Charlie out there trying to get every stray dog and cat. The borough actually can respond inside the city limits on that.
I have
Okay.
a follow-up.
And I believe we passed a resolution, because ultimately it's the city council that's gonna make decisions.
Right.
I believe we passed a resolution recommending either one additional code compliance officer or an administrative, I think we recommended an administrative support person that could handle the paperwork while he's actually out and about. I don't think the council took any action on that, but we did recommend an additional help for the code compliance officer.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the city council's done anything with it since then.
Could the planner check on that and see
that's what I was
when
going
it
to
went
say.
to the council? Is it time to bring it up again?
Well, and through the chair, so one thing also that we'll be talking about at the planning meeting, I'm sorry, the training meeting next meeting, is the roles part. So your question about, is that something we can do? I believe so, but I want to see where that would fall under those roles, because I know we all had questions during that training and Holly mentioned, it sounds like I should be bringing this back to discuss more. So I think she had planned on discussing to really lay out what the roles are. And I don't want to say just specific to your question, but even if, or when we find out what the next steps would be with regards to your request.
Okay. And, oh, go ahead.
One follow-up thought to what I said earlier, how we recommended to the council. They are about to go into their annual budgeting season, and so they could have money in, because they'd have to approve the money for a position, and so that could be part of the upcoming budgeting process, just as a random guess but we'll see when they get to that.
Yeah, good point.
And the other thing that I've noticed is that the other government, the city of Palmer, borough, Houston, within their ads, the public notice of the meetings and whatnot, they usually have a little block that says, hey, are you building? Come and see us.
Yes.
Can you do something like the planner, do something like that within our meeting notices?
Through the chair. So this is actually something that has come up now. So we want to work on our marketing, and we're looking at the tools for, and by we, I'm speaking somewhat collectively here. We want to start using some tools to start doing things like this, whether it be a little blurb that's on a Facebook ad that says, or not ad, post, because we do have our own Facebook page. But not everybody reads Facebook, so we want to make sure we're capturing all the places of where that could be. I really like that idea of the frontiersman ad, because I am placing those ads. That ad is going there, and it would not take a lot to add a separate little part, or find out, make sure that it's okay, because it would be a separation. This is, something different. I really like that idea.
Okay, good. And
Or
that's
the-
all I have.
Commissioner Stafford, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the heads up about the next meeting being a little longer. Helps with planning purposes, and thank you for all that your department does with limited resources.
Thank you. As Chair seals, I want to thank everybody, especially you, Simon, being here telephonically, even though you couldn't be here in person. That was some good stuff to bring up, Commissioner Langill. I'm looking forward to the training being finished so that we can move forward. And I'm actually looking forward to all the stuff that's coming up on our plate. So, thank you, everybody. With no further business at hand, I'm adjourning the meeting unless an objection is raised. Hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned at 6:26 p.m.